Greetings and welcome back to yet another episode of the Daily Run, and today we're playing as Lazarus. So Lazarus is one of those characters which I would say is very uneventful, and when you combine that with the fact that we're going to Mom's Foot, which is I would again say one of the most uneventful daily goals, you get a very fun run, right? It actually wasn't that bad, I'm just maybe making a bit of a fuss. I like to make fun of Lazarus sometimes because he's a very, I would say, uninspired character. Like, no one is gonna say Lazarus is my favorite character, because when you die, you respawn and you get a 0.7 damage upgrade. Obviously, that's not gonna help you out that much, and even triggering it doesn't feel that rewarding. So he's just one of those characters which I think is mostly forgotten by the player base, and I really can't blame people for that because, like I said, he's a bit uninspired in some regard. But I think what was inspired, what was special, is the very first floor, and it had some interesting decisions. So we got 3 bombs, and as always, you know, on the very first floor, or just like on the very first floors in general, you kind of have to consider how you're going to use your consumables. So with 3 bombs, we had a few options, and we had the bedroom. So should we go to the bedroom? And obviously, when you go to the bedroom, there are a few options. So use 2 bombs to just get into there, and there's either one of 2 outcomes. So either it's a dirty bedroom or a clean bedroom. If it's a dirty bedroom, you can just leave because there's nothing in there. If you bomb the carpet, it's always gonna be a crawl space. Not a crawl space, a trapdoor to the next floor. But if it's a clean bedroom, then it's always gonna be a crawl space when you do bomb the carpet, which means you need 3 bombs to get into it. So that means you need 2 bombs to get into it to check what the situation is, and if it happens to be a clean bedroom, then you're gonna bomb the carpet to actually unveil and go to the crawl space. And then when you enter the crawl space, there's either a possibility for a dark market or just for a regular crawl space as it is. So I figured it's gonna be a good idea to go there because we had 3 bombs. So we could use 2 bombs to just kind of check out what's going on and then decide from there. And because it happened to be a clean one, I decided it's gonna be a good idea to actually try to bomb it and hope for a black market. Because if there was a black market, we would actually be able to use it. And not only because we're only going to Mom's Foot, we would need some maybe shop items to really kind of get going, and hopefully, you know, there will be something good in there. But also because we're Lazarus, we're trying to kind of trade our health away so we can respawn as Lazarus too. Even though it's not that influential, it's still a damage upgrade, it's still a DPS upgrade, and it's gonna help us go just a little bit faster to the rest of the floors. So it just kind of had that of a bit of a double whammy effect. So of course the black market didn't show up in this case, so then the question, it begs the question, was this the right choice? Was this the right idea to actually go via this path? And I feel like in some regard it still is, because there was a possibility of the dark market, even if it was very low. Like if there was a dark market, our chances of actually succeeding and just getting a much better score would be better. So essentially what we're doing is we're trading 3 bombs away for a very low chance of getting a very huge payout. So it's more like a very high risk, high reward type of situation. The other situation, which we could have used the bombs for, of course, we could have used 1 or 2 bombs on the shopkeepers with the nickels, and they have a very high chance of actually giving us 5 cents. And then, of course, because we have 5 cents, there's an increased chance of actually getting an arcade on the next floor. And especially on a run that goes to the mom, then we would need, then we could utilize the Ivy bag not only to have invisibility via the Polaroid, but also just to get more money and more consumables in general. Whenever you're going to mom, as I always say, because the score ceiling is so low, getting any way to really generate points is gonna be really helpful, and Ivy bag is definitely in that category. So maybe you might say, well, why not just use 1 bob, try to get 5 cents, and then save the rest to maybe blow up Tinted Rock or something like that on the next floor. And I think that's a more conservative playstyle, like it's definitely one of those lower risk, lower reward, but if there was a black market, like I said, even though it's a very high risk, we use all of our bombs, if we did get it, there was a very high chance of actually getting something really good. Like even if you just got something like Humbling Bundle, that would already double every single consumable that we get from that point forward. So if we would get something like 2,000 points in general at the end from Shrek bonus, having Humbling Bundle would bump that up to 4,000, or, you know, give or take. It doesn't really work that way, but let's say it would double our Shrek bonus. So that's already a very, I would say, a very marginal increase, just because we're going to Mom's Foot. Overall, you're gonna get like 20,000 score, so getting an additional 2,000 score from just a single item is obviously gonna be really, really helpful. And of course, there's always the possibility of getting something like Restock, Mama Mega, or any other really crazy breaking items like this one. So I entered Boss Rush with the full card, of course, with the intention of doing it and then teleporting out. I did have a pretty strong round, but because I took so long on the very first and the second floor, I was a bit slow, and I kinda skipped a lot of the rooms on the previous floor, but luckily because I had a full card, I could of course teleport out on this particular floor. So I think overall I missed like 8 or 9 rooms of exploration and maybe like a secret room or something like that. So it's not that big of a deal, but it's still something like 1,000 points which I could have gained if I only played a little bit faster. And the run wasn't that bad either, because you see me not only having quite a high damage at 12.6, but also our luck is extremely high at 7, but we also had Little Brimstone. So Little Brimstone kind of does the work when we're trying to clear the enemies and just kill little enemies when we're going through the rooms, and of course then our 12.6 damage is doing work against the bosses. And when you combine it with the Ivy Bag and of course the Ball of Bandages and also Brimstone, we made pretty short work of enemies and bosses of this particular area. But the problem was, I think that this was still a champion version of Boss Rush, and it just had a few nasty critters in there, which kind of warranted me getting hit for no reason other than they were kind of off screen. I didn't see them, they charged at me, and because they were really quick, I didn't have time to dodge. And because I also picked up Swan Rock at a certain point, I wasn't as fast as maybe I would be comfortable with if I tried to dodge those fast enemies. So I just kind of got hit a few times that kind of tanked my score in the end. So it's not that big of a deal, because damage penalty is not going to be that influential on a run that only goes to Mom, but it's still an additional, I would say, like 700 points of damage that I really didn't have to take, and that's the difference between 23,000 and 24,000 in the end, and that might be the difference between like rank 20 and rank 10, which might not seem like a lot, but you know, 10 ranks in that retrospect is actually quite good, and especially when you consider that some other players will play the daily. As the daily goes on, of course, people will have more information, which means that people will tend to have better scores in general, which I think in turn means that any single point you can squeeze out is going to be beneficial for us if we actually want to rank well. So with that said, it was an enjoyable run to some extent. I did enjoy it. We got the Ivy Bag. It's always fun when you get the Ivy Bag. You can just get a ton of money, a ton of points that way, and you can kind of snowball your experience from there. And it's always exciting when you have the Polaroid. You can just enter, spam it, and you're pretty much invincible for the entirety of Boss Rush, and you pretty much kill and instantly melt most bosses that just come in contact. It's a very nice way to feel in control over the game, and it's one of those things which I feel like we should experience more often, because it's very therapeutic. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you next time.